Welcome to Write Now Workshop Podcast, where you can write a book and change the world. I'm your host, Kitty Bucholtz, and this is episode 277, Writing Even with a Demanding Career, an interview with Amy S. Peele, coming to you on Thursday, December 9th, 2021. So how is your writing going? Is it doing great? Are you getting tons and tons of words done? Is it just going medium okay, like you're happy? You wish you could write 1,000 words in a half an hour, but it's just not ever going to happen. Or you're just kind of bleh, like this isn't working and I need a break and I have so many things to do. So here's the thing. As we approach Christmas and the other seasonal holidays and summer, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, there are really good reasons why this could be a great time to get a ton of extra writing done, like really feel like you're getting caught up and you're getting on a roll. It could also be an equally great time to take a break because maybe if you are struggling, possibly you could just be stressing your brain and have too much stress in your life. And what you really need is to fill your creative well. So if you've heard that phrase and you're like, yeah, what exactly does that mean? It just means play. You need more playtime. Treat yourself like you're 5 and give yourself more recess breaks. Seriously, this could really help you to come back fresh and clean and clear and have all sorts of ideas. In fact, what often happens with me is that at first I think, oh, thank goodness, 2 weeks off. Or I think, oh, I feel guilty for taking 2 weeks off. And then partway through, I'm like, okay, no, I can do this. This will be good for me. You know, the creativity, well-filling sort of thing is a good idea. And I really should, play more and relax more. And after all, it is vacation. And I did promise my family that I would actually be on vacation with them, not just in the same room, but mentally and emotionally with them. And then about a week and a half into that 2 weeks, and I actually end up with about 2.5 weeks this year because of the weekend before and the weekend after, my brain just starts ticking away in a way that it hasn't been in a little while. And more ideas and more ideas. And I'm writing little notes on my phone or on the back of a piece of paper. And by the time I get to the end of my vacation, I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. This is great. And that, my friends, is why I suggest that you sit down and really think about, what do you need? Do you just, you're dying to write, you have so much to say, you just don't have enough minutes and hours in front of the keyboard? Then write, enjoy it. Treat your family well, act like you love them. But if this is a good time for you to write, do so. But you may find that the little example that I just gave you is kind of where you're at, in which case give yourself a break, play, do whatever play means to you. Does it mean painting, taking a hike, doing a puzzle, watching like an entire Marvel movie marathon? Yes, that would be play for me. Whatever it is, give yourself what you most need. Because there is no magic answer. There is no one size fits all answer. You have to stop sometimes and just think, what is it that's actually going to be best for me right now? And I say that as someone who often forgets to stop and think. I'm just like running, running, running. Oh, I have 40 more, 40, I can't talk because I'm running so fast. My mouth is running so fast. I have 40 more minutes. I'll hurry and do this other thing. And then, yeah, I never get any rest or any breaks. And then I don't know, my creativity just wears out a lot quicker. So anyway, wanted to give you that little piece of advice, not of what to do, but to stop and think so that you can decide what you want to do with the rest of your December and January, if you've got extra time. Also, a few weeks left in my end of year special. If you'd like to consider working with me as your writing coach, send me an email at kitty@kittybucholtz.com, or you can go over to writenowworkshop.com/writing coach, scroll down a little bit, and there's a place where you can enter your email address and hit submit. I'll get an email that basically says, so-and-so wants to talk to you. So, and then we'll get on a call and talk about the sorts of things that I do and how I can help you, and see if there is a way that would work out great for us to work together on the book that you're working on. Remember, if you're not sure exactly what writing coaching does, um, I am like your best friend, a little bit of an editor. I'm your critique partner. I'm your cheerleader. Like, I'm a little bit of all of these things, but for you, for your book, your ideas. So I reflect back to you what you just said to me. And a lot of times it's the thing that makes you go, yeah, that. But the only thing I've done is just said what it seems like you were just now trying to say. It's just that sometimes that's what really helps us to be like, yes, that's exactly what I meant. If you feel like when you're talking to a friend or your critique partner or something, and you're filling in each other's sentences, finishing each other's sentences, and really helping each other to have this moment of, yes, that's what my story is about, but it happens to you all the time. That's kind of what a writing coach can do. So basically, I help you get your story down. I don't try to co-write your story. I don't tell you your idea is stupid, you should do this other thing that's my idea. I have nothing to do with the writing of your story except for to help you get the words down and come up with better ideas and better ideas all the time, so that in the end you have a great book that is your story. Just want to emphasize that because a few people have wondered, how much do you actually do? I don't do anything that has to do with the writing. That's all you. I just help you to do it better. Okay, so send me an email. Also, on my website, writenowworkshop.com, there is a place where you can click right there on the home page and download a free self-publishing checklist. So if that's something that you're looking into doing, I think it could be a very valuable resource for you. So go ahead and get that for yourself this year. Today's guest has so many interesting attributes, and it's like, where to start? I actually couldn't read her entire bio. I mean, everybody has a long bio and a short bio, but even in her short bio, I was like, I can't read all these things because there's so many different cool, interesting things going on in your life. But among other things, she shares with us. I really can't talk today, can I? She shares with us in this interview a writing tip that Michael Connelly gave her. Very interesting. Definitely want to hear what that is. You will be surprised and not surprised. She talks about how she started and kept on writing, even though she had a very demanding and time demanding as well career, a great career that led us to also be talking about organ donation as we were talking about everything else having to do with writing. And also some helpful exercises you can do in your chair that will help your muscles and everything to stay loose and limber, so that you can treat yourself with self-love and taking care of your body, so that it will take care of helping you sit there while you get all these words out. So lots of really interesting things that we were talking about today, lots of tips that I'm sure that you will be glad that you heard. And also, Amy is just fun. She was just fun to talk to. So we will now start the interview with Amy S. Peele. Today's guest is Amy S. Peele. Amy S. Peele, RN, is the award-winning best-selling author of Cut and Match, Medical Mysteries with a Mission and a Side of Humor. Before becoming a writer, Amy enjoyed a fascinating 35-year career in the organ transplant field, which provides an authentic backdrop to her books. Match, Amy's latest book, is a page-turning thriller that takes the reader into the vivid and dramatic world of kidney transplantation. Amy expertly weaves politics, living donor kidney transplants, and the opioid crisis into a fast-paced, nonstop adventure. She currently resides in San Francisco, close to the Golden Gate Bridge, where she loves to swim, teach chair yoga, and meditate. Welcome, Amy.
Well, thank you, Kitty. I'm so happy to be here. This is exciting. I hardly ever get like a cold call sort of email and that I say yes to. So you and I have no connection to anybody as far as we know. And here we are, and we're having this lovely, fun time together.
I know, from different parts of the world. How cool is that?
So fun. And
What a
yet we
gift,
have this connection. Your husband and I are from the same state. So
right? And we're both writers
yes,
and
yay.
storytellers.
So honestly, it's not that hard for us to imagine being friends.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, listen, you have the most interesting background. I had to cut things out of your bio because I was like, there just isn't time to say all this, but so many interesting things. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll kind of move into out of all of these interesting things you've done. I'm still just like amazed and think it's the coolest thing that you were in Second City in Chicago. But how did you get into writing books?
Well, I actually in high school, I'm from Chicago, outside of Chicago, Illinois, small town, Park Forest, Illinois, 60466 is how we always say it. I worked with a surgeon at UCSF, Peter Stock, and anytime we'd pass in the hall on our way, he'd go, "Hey, 60466." I go, "Back at you, buddy." But so family of six, and you'll love this story because I was in high school and I took English. Obviously, we all had to take English freshman year. I wrote my theme. And I'll never forget the teacher, Mrs. Crumbine. I got it back and had an F in it. And I'm like, what? And she goes, "You plagiarized." I didn't even know what plagiarism was. I had taken a definition from the library as a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that you had to reference. I mean, I just didn't, know. So I was just like, because I didn't ever get an F in English. So I was like,
Right.
oh no, my career is over.
Yeah.
And then I took a creative writing class senior year, which I loved. And then I became a nurse and started at University of Chicago as a staff nurse in transplant in 1977. And then I got this real passion for transplant, as you mentioned, 35 years. So when I started to write, besides I always wrote clinically, but that's really boilerplate, black and white, medical, statistical. So I started taking a community college class here in Marin County outside of San Francisco. And I was so lucky to have a teacher who I always wanted to write more when I was done. He'd give us a seed, a word, and then I'd write something and turn it in, and we'd read some things out loud. And it was just like I found this outlet that was so exciting, and I got encouraged. I mean, I had a lot of self-doubts, and we can talk about that later in Gremlins and how I over the years. So that's how I started. Wrote some short stories, met other writers, storytellers. As you know, we are all drawn to each other because
Yeah.
it's like, I know we've talked about it, that when you're with writers and storytellers, you could just talk forever. There's just so much to talk about. And listen, I love it when someone starts telling me a story and I'm just like this, because I think in all of us, there's a kid. And whenever I go to a reading, because we've got a great bookstore down in Corte Madera, I feel like I'm just like 5 years old. I mean, I know I'm 68, I get that. But just that someone would tell me a story or read from a book, and it fills my soul. So I think all of us as writers are lucky. However we package our writing up, whether like a short story or a prose or an article or book. So I just decided I would use mystery as kind of the carrier of my creative act, and take some of my, humor, because in the world I worked with, I needed a little humor. That's why I went to Second City Players Workshop, and some levity. And I decided, I tried not to write about transplant. I really did. I met Michael Connelly once, and he had a heart transplant patient in a book. And I was just like, oh, Michael Connelly.
Yeah.
I said, "Hi," because he was at book passage. I go, "Oh, I'm in transplant, but I don't want to write about it." And he just said, "Well, that's too bad." And I was just like, because I was writing a whole nother series, and a different series. And I thought, oh, so began my, accepting that thing they tell us, write what you know.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started writing mysteries. And I've written Cut, which I have here, and Match. Cut came out in 2017. And this, I wasn't even going to use this point of view, but everyone, when I told them, oh, I'm writing, because I retired in 2014. And I said, oh, I'm going to write about transplant. And everybody would lean in and go, can you buy your way up to the top of the list? And I'd be like, really? And then I thought, if enough people outside my world are asking me, so on the back of the book, it says, can you buy your way to the top of a liver transplant list? That's how I led.
Nice.
And it went well, and I'm grateful it got, good acclaim and all that. And then the second book, it just came out in March or in April, is Match. And this is the one that you described with politicians, opioid crisis, kidney transplants. And I always put things in here. If people want to be a donor, if they want to, they can go to my website. If they want to, they always learn. People say that when they read my books, they feel like they got a peek behind the curtain, which helps that I was doing what I did for a living and putting the detail. And one lady at a recent book club in Half Moon Bay said, I feel smarter after I read your book. And I'm like, great. I mean, sometimes you don't think of what the reader will take away from your work, and it's good because we all take different things from each other's work.
Yeah.
So that's just a little, a brief update, a long-winded answer to why did I pick mystery? It's kind of a whodunit, a page turner. Like, I don't know if I told you. People were like, I read your book in 2 days, and I'm just like, really? Because it took me 2 years to write it. Could you slow down, please? I'm honored. Or I went swimming one time, and this lady gets in the pool at the water class we take, and she goes, I'm mad at you. I go, why? She goes, I was up till 4:00 in the morning. I read to go to sleep. Thanks a lot. And I was like, and I said, well, did you finish? Because of course I finished it. So, I'm honored that it's a page turner, but you're a writer, and we really try to get those words, we edit and we clean and we cut, and, you just want it as in the best polished shape so we can give our reader like our very, very best work, right?
Yeah. 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 And then they're like, can you get us another one sooner? And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Exactly. When's the next one coming out? Really? Did you hear about life? I mean, there's other things, eat, drink, maybe go for exercise, a couple other things on a plate. Yeah, I know. Really? So.
But one of the interesting things in your book, and tell me if I'm wrong, of course you'll tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that, people read your book and they learn a lot more about a topic that they probably don't know that much about. And I would think that people would understand in a more visceral way the need for organ donation. And I think that you said that on your website, you have a place where you can just click a link and you send them to the right page that they need to sign up to be an organ donor after they die. Is that right?
That's right. It's interesting how it's evolved. Over in Europe, they have what they call Eurotransplant. In the United States, they have the United Network for Organ Sharing. But on my website, I have the number of people waiting. Now, 18 people die a day. One donor can supply 8 transplanted organs. So I have I'll counter and I try to educate about it because a lot of people don't know. And then if they want to be a donor, they hit it. But most importantly now, because of the laws around the world, regardless of whether they sign their donor card, the family will be asked. And so what I think is important is just find out what you want in your heart and just share it with your loved ones. Whatever it is the right thing for you.
Yeah.
So there's no wrong answer, but no, they will be asked. And not putting your family in that position to go, gee, I wonder what Tom wanted. That just takes that all out of the equation. So yeah, it is. There's a good button right there on the website that can just take them right where they need to go to get educated.
Excellent. Yeah, that's something I have to learn over here. It turns out I can't give blood anymore until I learn Swedish. Apparently it's some sort of, I'm sorry, this is my version of it, some sort of weird rule. I don't know. I think it's weird, but
Wow.
But I think that it's not so much, I mean, I bet that it's a rule that was created not so much about Swedish as about you need to be literate. You need to understand what you're getting into, which now there's so many expats that I know who are living here and happy to give blood and we're not allowed. And we're like, you could just change the rule. Like we can read the rules in English and then we can sign our name. And
Yeah.
but eventually, I'm sure that they will. But in the meantime, I'm like, I have all this extra blood.
Help yourself.
That's right. Okay, so mysteries, so many things to talk about. Where do you want to start? Like, what do you want to maybe
Well,
some
I
tips
think
or how you?
I'd like to start with, let's see, for people who are working full time and are just trying to squeeze the words out or the ideas out, a couple things that have helped me through my career and continue to, and is I was working at a big job, as we've talked about. So it was a Park Your Life at the Door, 12 to 15 hours a day. But I was starting to scaffold my first book, Cut, with my Brooke Warner, who now started She Writes Press about 8 years ago. Thankfully, the universe, delivered her. But I knew my day was crazy. So one of the little tricks I thought about is I put my password in my computers was the name of one of my characters. So even though I couldn't create them and talk, really get them going, whenever I put my, because in the day of computers, we have to have a bazillion passwords that we have to change 7 million times.
Yeah.
But I had the name of one of my characters. And so it was kind of like I was in my subconscious, she was there. And if you're going to write like about something you do for a living, when I decided my first was going to be a mystery, I looked at things in a different way and I made notes and I took pictures of the transplant floor and I sat back at a selection meeting where we decide who's going to get on the list. And I thought, how would I describe that to someone like you, Kitty? If you've never been in that world, what would it feel like? What was the room like? So it was kind of fun because not only was I on a little creative writing adventure, I still had to do my work. So one is the password, two is taking note of details that you may sprinkle into your story. And then I keep little quotes and pictures by my desk. So one of the quotes my friend Betsy gave me is from Shannon Hale, and it says, "I am writing a first draft and reminding myself that I am simply shoveling sand into a box so that later I can build a castle." So for people who think this has got to be perfect, I got to write, and myself included, I can't sit down and write. It's not going to be perfect. I don't have the right time. It's too sunny. It's too hot. It's too cold. If you just make a date with yourself, and I do that a lot now, I call it power hours with people. Like we just log on Zoom. Hi, what are you working on? I'm in a writing group. This is it. Turn the cameras off, the sound off, and we just write. It's like you're in a room, but you're not because Zoom's there, but it's like accountability. So another trick is just find someone you can be accountable to in a kind, loving, caring way. So if you really just want to dedicate 20 minutes is all you can give, then if you're Kitty's friend, say, Kitty, could I just text you, or could we FaceTime or Zoom, turn it off just for 20 minutes? And you'd be surprised how many people go, yeah, for sure, because I need to be working on some things too. So accountability, your password, knowing that there's always a rough, horrible draft that gets better. Like our lives, I'd say, thank God, that get better. And if we, as we continue to improve ourselves, so the story will get where you want it to go, but at least get it on the page and don't be so critical. And, Kitty, I know as writers, we both have gremlins. And I have named mine as my girlfriend Betsy. My gremlin is Ursula. And I'll be having a howdy doody day and thinking, yeah, okay, it's coming along. All of a sudden, you can't write. What are you thinking? You're not a good speller. You didn't get a degree in, literature, or you don't have an MFA. You're a nurse. And, there's a wow, wow, wow. Finally, I'm like, I used to let it stop me. Because I was like, well, you're right. I don't. I mean, I'm not crazy and I'm not on medication, but you know how you talk to yourself sometimes.
I do. Yeah.
But yeah. So Betsy and I, hers is Dominique, mine's Ursula, and she's my best friend and one of my writing tribe. We've been together with four of us 20 years now. So I'll just call her. I go, Ursula wants to talk to you. She goes, really? Put her on the phone. And so she'll and then she'll say, okay, I took care of her. Or Betsy will call me and say, Dominique is really loud today. I'll say, oh, really? It's like, we're big sisters for each other and someone's trying to, muscle in. So we all have inner critics. We all have gremlins. It's just kind of how you tame them. If you name them, I'll say, okay, you might be right. But as I've, write and publish and people seem to like my work, I'm like, really, Ursula? Because you see the two books on my desk, hello, maybe, so it just, Kitty, I'd be curious from you. It takes courage to show up at the keyboard, or if you write by hand, right? You gotta it takes courage, and you have to just say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you tell people you're writing a book, and they're like, really? I always wanted to write a book. And you're like, great. But it takes courage. And my other prop is that because it's a process, you know what they say, how do you eat an elephant? I don't eat elephants, but one bite at a time. So I keep this by my desk to
Okay.
remind myself, how do you eat an elephant? How do you write? One word, one sentence, one paragraph, right? So if you saw my desk, it's a little cluttered, but it's full of love and, things that give me positive thoughts. Sometimes I don't need them because I'm having a good time with the story. And sometimes I need an outside, a visual. So mystery's my container. Now you're going to like this one. I've got a really vivid imagination. And when I write, I like to cast people as if it's already going to be a movie, because you don't know. So I have a storyboard I want to show you and your listeners, or, your YouTube people. So I cast people as my characters, and then I look at them. So these are the characters in Match. And we've got Sarah Gold. Let's see, over here is Sarah Golden. And then this is Jackie Larson. And then there's some bad guys here too. That's Sergio, Maria, and that's, her boyfriend Mo. That's Officer Handsome. That's Officer Campus. There's Biker Bob. That's Zuzu. So I take the pictures and I pick them up and I cast them on my storyboard. So when I'm stuck, I'm like, well, what would he say? And I look over. And it's a fun project to do, because if you have character, and even if you have like aliens or out of space, you can get a magazine with almost any picture in it.
That's true.
It's just like, it makes it more real that, they're in the room with me. And my husband knows I talk to them, and he's across the hall in his office. So, there hasn't been any, straitjackets coming home. But I think whatever is playful that you can surround yourself with, and people, to friends, colleagues who believe in you and give you support. I think all of that makes a writer a little more confident to be vulnerable, to tell their story in their way, because, we all have our different versions of a story. And the creative process, I think, is really good for your mind and your heart and your spirit. I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
So those are a few of my little props that I do.
Nice. Well, I like your board with all of the characters on it. I was trying to see whether or not I recognized anyone, just through the camera here. And I'm like, oh, I think that's Aquaman right there. I forget his real name, but
Yes,
it's just Aquaman
it is.
to me.
That's Biker Bob. And Melissa McCarthy is like one of my favorite people in the whole wide
Melissa
world.
McCarthy.
I don't know if you've seen The Heat, but it's kind of my jam. It's
yeah.
just fun. And I just like her being. So she's in there. So maybe, who knows, maybe she'll buy the movie rights to the books. You just don't know.
It could happen.
But also I remember listening to Louise Penny. Do you know who she is? She's a wonderful mystery writer out of Canada. She used to be a journalist. And I got to meet her at Book Passage, and then afterwards at a couple places. Anyway,
Book Passage is a bookstore near you?
Yeah, it's called Book Passage, is our independent bookstore, and it's just, oh my God, they have everybody, and it's one of those places where you could just go all day and read and have a cup of coffee and write. And the community, Isabel Allende, who lives in Sausalito, she knows the owner, Elaine Petroselli, and she'll just come and talk. And one time, I guess the guy didn't show up to make coffee, so Isabel Allende just got back and started making people their coffee, giving them their. I mean, it's a great place. So anyway, I divert, but it's a great bookstore. And now I'm trying to remember what I was.
Louise Penny.
Oh, so she was there, and she said that she decided she was going to write a book, and she had no idea if anyone would like it or want it. So she picked a place she wanted to be with characters she wanted to hang with, and she would write it so she could at least enjoy the process. And then if anybody liked it, that was a bonus. And I thought, wow, what a great way to show up to the page. Like, and of course you have to have some evil characters in a mystery. You got to have a bad guy, a bad gal. You got to have some tension in the mystery to keep the reader, to keep turning the pages. But I thought, what a great attitude that you're going to write something that you want to write and create characters, some you like, some you don't. And it's like freedom. I thought it was like such a great little, how people just pass these pearls on. So I think that was inspiring to me. And she's obviously a international best-selling author. Oh, she just co-authored a book I have on my desk with Hillary Clinton.
Oh,
They wrote a mystery together, and now they're going to do a series of her books, Gamache books, on TV. So
how
look at
funny,
that.
because I read the Bill Clinton and James Patterson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that mystery. So how funny that both the Clintons are co-writing mysteries.
Yeah, it's probably the only way they can package up, some interesting morsels of information.
Pretend that it's fiction.
Fiction there's a big permission slip on that one, right?
Yeah. Oh, how funny. And is it a good book, the Louise?
I haven't read it yet because I try. My teacher used to say, don't read what you're writing because subconsciously you might take. So I'm reading other things right now. But I can't wait to read it because I have my mystery stack ready. But the other thing I do, and you won't be able to see the detail, and it's very tattered and torn, but this is my reference sheet so that I don't have to keep looking up it. And you can see it's pretty tattered and torn, but if you can tell, what I do is I write what my characters' names are, how old they are, what color hair they have, if there's boyfriend, girlfriends, kids, how tall, what their hobbies are, what they like, and then what seasons. So as I'm writing, I don't have to remember how old is Sarah this time? How old is Wyatt? So I kind of keep that. So I make that for each book. And so I know what year I am in. So if I want to put in a little something about the news, or did the Cubs win the World Series because I'm a baseball fan, or just what the weather was like, or some things that puts the reader right in that particular season and time. It's just those, and it doesn't have to be heavy, but just sprinkle that. And so that just slows me down to take a look. Okay, yeah, she's this age, she'd be, yeah. So I do one of these. And
let me just stop you for 1 second. So most people are listening only. You say tattered because it's a piece of paper. You are one of the only writers that I can think of right off the top of my head that I've talked to who uses paper, not paper that you printed your Excel spreadsheet, but that you hand wrote on paper. So do you think that the process of handwriting it, because I think that there is a link to handwriting and creativity, or do you do it that way just so you can carry it to wherever you are writing and you don't have to worry about looking up an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document?
I don't want it on. I want to touch it. I want to add little things in pencil. I want to erase things. I think you're right. I believe the hand and brain coordination is important. I know you probably heard of the Artist's Way book. I did that years ago, and you do the morning pages. I still do morning pages. Just, it's what it is. You get out of bed before you do anything. And free write. You don't have to worry about spelling. It's just, and the point is that it takes what's ever in your brain out to make room for the new stuff to percolate and come up. So I do that. And then when I just made the third one of these character information reference sheet, because in the first book, Jackie was drinking some rum. I don't drink rum. So I had to do some homework and write down the names of some rum and what they were. And I had my husband go to Beverages and More so I could taste a little, because I'm just not a rum drinker. I don't know why I made her a rum drinker. I can't tell you that. She's a rum drinker. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
So, give her some good rum. So, but I know, and maybe it is old fashioned because I know there's Excel spreadsheets, but I'm not a master. So I like having a handwritten piece of reference paper that I can take with me if I'm going to write at a cafe or at home or wherever.
Yeah. There's something about seeing my own handwriting and the way that that I filled it out. So, it wrote so neatly across the paper. I'm really into making sure my handwriting lines go straight across, not up or down. I don't know, it's just OCD. But then when I'm creating something on paper with pen or pencil or sometimes marker on a ginormous piece of paper, I like the way that I I can remember what I was thinking when I wrote this other part kind of diagonal from it, with a little line, like a reminder, or I wrote this other part and then scribbled it out. I'm like, yes, I remember what I was thinking when I did that with my hand. But sometimes I'll look at what I, have typewritten, Excel or Word or Scrivener or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I think I remember what I was thinking when I typed that, but it's just not the same.
No, I think it really does cement things in a different way or connects them in a different way. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good reference sheet, and I like that. And I've been in this Thought Leadership Academy with Sarah Connell, and she is of the belief, and I am too. She's also been my life coach for 30 years, is that books change people's lives.
Yes.
And a book changed her life. And then she became a writer, got her MFA, and she has a beautiful movement here in the States. And she has lots of free writing, little workshops if people need something but don't, particularly have the means. It's Sarah Connell, and she does wonderful things with writers, just little ideas. So one of the things, because I've been working with her for so long, and tricks is like, one of them is like, I'd had some surgery years ago. I had my knees replaced, and I was tired and everything. But she says, well, just dictate it then. So I just hit the voice thing, and Sarah is in da 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 da, and Jackie is in. I just put it, and then I was able to send it to myself, copy and paste it in the document, which was a great idea. I didn't write something, I didn't type something, but I had an idea. The other thing, and this was a great little book that I keep near and dear to myself.
Oh, can you just tell us the title for people who are
Yeah,
listening?
the title. Oh, yeah. Hello. It's called 20 Ways to Double Your Productivity, Improve Your Craft, and Get Published, a field guide for writers by writing coach and best-selling author Sarah Connell, Connell. But one of my favorite things is this thing called pleasure bundling. And again, it deals with the neural pathways. So let's say that I really didn't want to do this podcast, but I actually did really want to do this. Let's just say for the case of this discussion, oh, I can't. And I thought, and I'd say, Amy, after it's over, you can watch Grace and Frankie on Netflix, or you can have a hot bath, or you can have a delicious cup of hot tea with some honey and maybe a few biscuits, but something that I love. So if you find yourself like not going to your writing desk because of XYZ, you can say, I'm going to write for 20 minutes today. And after I'm done, I get to take a walk, get an ice cream, whatever, your pleasure is. And then what happens is your brain starts associating the writing with a positive thing. It's called pleasure bundling. And you end up wanting to write more because you're going to get a treat. And eventually you don't even need to worry about the treat because your mind's like, I really actually like this. This is fun. So it's these little tricks of the trade, unless you are just so prolific and you show up and, magic happens and,
Every time.
Yeah, every time the bubbles abound over your head, the information is dropped down and you write it perfectly the first time. Right?
Yeah. If you're not that person, then pleasure bundling could help.
Well, yeah, it's like a neural pathway thing. It really is. And we do things like rubbing your right and left hand together because it actually stimulates the right and left hemisphere of your brain. So when I'm in writing groups, we start power hours before we start. We just go, okay, what are you working on? And we're rubbing our right and left hand together. And it actually does stimulate the right and left hemisphere of your brain.
I can't believe, of all the neuroscience geek stuff that I've read, I've never read that. That's cool.
Yeah. She brings these fun things into the academy, and a combo, and plus, we're all really supportive of each other. So again, as a writer, surrounding yourself with other writers, and even if you don't know them, just go to a local independent bookstore, and I bet you get a cup of tea or coffee and you'll hear people talking and chatting, and there you go. So I think we all have, I'm sure you have your little bag of tricks that you use to in your world as you write. And I think what I love about writers is people share like what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I find it a really good community, supportive community, and a funny community. Because the other thing, and I'm sure you do too, is I go to workshops. So I love murder mystery workshops because I love, there's people sitting there. I mean, I literally, the first one I went to at Book Passage, which was amazing. There was, this lady who's about 90, almost 90, and she's serious as the day is long. And she's like, so what kind of kind of gun would I use and bullet? Because I really just don't want a lot of mess on the carpet in my story. And like they have like ballistics people, FBI people, coroner people, and they're just serious. Well, ma'am, I think you should use a 45 and the bullet that you buy. And I'm thinking, this is a scream. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in. I want to watch the show no matter who's talking here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is, and I would say, and you probably may agree, we're lifelong learners. Writers are lifelong learners, right?
Yeah.
So when you're writing something, or I am, and I have to look, I'm learning so much. I'm writing the third book in the series. I'm really learning a lot about a lot of different things. You know, I'm not allowed to share right now because they say don't talk about what you're writing right now because it takes energy away from it, right? But I was writing a scene one day and I was dying to tell somebody. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even plan on this happening. It's happening. So I called Betsy. I said, I got to tell somebody. I mean, I was making it up, but you know, when you're writing a story and then the story kind of takes on its own trajectory, and sometimes you're just the scribe, like, and Jackie Larson gets on the back of a motorcycle with a guy, she, you know, turns out biker Bob and he's all chill, but she didn't know that. I'm not getting on the back of this guy's motorcycle, but it's not me, it's Jackie Larson. So I got to, you know, you follow your character, even if they're kind of a little cuckoo. And it all turned out to be fine. But at the moment, I'm like, the guy's got a lot of, you know, tattoos and I don't know. And she's in a biker bar and what's she doing there? Oh my gosh. But she saves the day. Kind of. I'm not going to give it away, but yeah. So that's part of the magic, I think, of being a storyteller, is just getting out of your way. Well, first getting to the story, getting out of your own way sometimes, and then just honoring it and see where you go, because I think the magic happens. And why we're on magic, before I forget, because this is something I love, is I'm sure you've heard of Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Yes.
I love this book. I love her. She's got a great, it's on a book on tape. Wow, what a bunch of pearls and yum that this has. You know, this is something I keep on my desk too, because writing is big magic. We're making up stories sometimes. You know, I made up a story around facts and transplant, but I made up the characters. I made up some of the setting. But, you know, it all kind of weaving it together. It's kind of magical, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is to take something out of the air, you know, out of your brain, put it on paper, give it to somebody else. They read it and they can see all these things.
Yeah.
And these things don't actually exist, but we sort of forget while we're reading it that they don't exist.
Yeah. I mean, when I love food, I'm thinking you do too, because I listen to a couple of your podcasts.
Yes.
And so, but I have a developmental editor I work with. So I had so much, I was writing one scene where the girls needed a burrito because they were waiting for someone to get off a Learjet in Miami. So I'm writing the burrito, you know, with the beans and the rice and the chorizo and the sour cream. And I'm sitting here writing, and I'm thinking, I saved it. And I went downtown, bought myself a burrito, ate the burrito, came back, finished this part of the story, right? My editor is like, you got to cut the burrito. I'm like, what? She goes, you're taking your reader off into this place, and all they can think about is food. So they'll probably want to do what you did, is put the book down and go get themselves a burrito. I'm like, oh, all right. Now, I did write about chicken cacciatore in the first book. It did get cut, but I got it in the second book. She says, Amy, if you're gonna, you just need to write a book in a restaurant. That's what you need to do, because well, the characters have to eat, although you look at some of these characters on TV and all they do is drink red wine. It's like, where is the food, right? I mean, come on. But I think, you know, they do have to eat sometimes, maybe, just saying.
Yes.
So
yes, I agree.
So it's a matter of keeping the reader on the story and not getting them off left or right and to a place where I love, but it doesn't really, you know, move the story forward. So
yeah, well, you know what I do? I'm just
What?
telling you, Amy, in case you want to put more food in your books, I just figure out a way to make the food integral to what's going on in the story at that moment. So Like my current rom-com, she meets a guy who is working a taco truck. So I wrote about tacos until I got hungry.
I bet. Oh, I like it. Oh, okay. I'm with you now.
Yeah. In Little Miss Lovesick, Sydney, when she hits her like life is the worst that's ever been kind of bad moment. She goes to the store and she buys, not that I've ever done this, I'm crossing my fingers so you don't know I'm lying. She buys frozen mozzarella sticks, Ben and Jerry's, and I think frozen pizza, like all those her comfort foods. And she goes home and she puts everything else in the oven and she starts with the ice cream and she's just like moaning about her life while she's eating all these foods. But like the story is continuing, but as she's eating. And my narrator, this lovely friend of mine who's a actress in LA and now is a acting teacher in I'm going to say the wrong one, Kentucky or Tennessee. She works for one of the universities over there. She's like, Kitty, all your books make me hungry when I'm narrating them. I'm like, okay, good. So I bet you can find now. I think you just need, regardless of whether it stays in the book, I think you need a goal, figuring out a way that you can get food in where your editor's like, yeah,
okay, I'll take that. Yeah. Now, oh boy. Wait, we'll see if she gets that out, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, no, I love that. Give him, okay. I'm there. Now I'm writing, after the series is done, I'm writing a romantic comedy and it has got a caterer in it.
Yay!
But you're right. So people have to work for a living. So why not have him, be the character who gets to make chocolates, dark chocolates.
Right.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. I love it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I'll be tucking that one right away.
All right. I've got a question for you. So we're kind of talking about, the magic of storytelling, all the different things that you have combined together to put into your books. It's very interesting. And one of the things that I think is interesting is current events. I mean, we have a lot of interesting current events in our world and have probably forever, but the last 10 or 20 years are particularly interesting. So what are your, Amy's rules for Amy's books, how you decide what kinds of things you're going to put in your books? Like right now, we're in the middle of an opioid crisis and you put it into Match. How do you choose which headlines? Like, do you choose a political side? Do your characters choose a political side? Or do you try to make it, you're just multifaceted and you're covering all of the arguments? Or what are your choices when you're writing?
That's a really, really good question, Kitty, because I think consciously you do have to pay attention. I do have a dead politician in the second book, but it was because of the kidney disease. It wasn't my fault. I swear to God. And I'm just for the record, if anyone's sending this to the FBI, it wasn't me. But the interesting thing about the opioid crisis, which I think sometimes things come to you as a writer, even in the political sense or the media sense. Well, I was on this committee in national committee, and we met once or twice a year at O'Hare because we all convene there in Chicago, O'Hare Airport. And in 2013 or 14, way before I wrote Match, they showed us a heat map of the United States and what was happening with the opioid crisis then.
Oh, and I didn't even know it was a crisis already then.
Yes, in 2013, and that where people were overdosing and dying and all that. In addition to that, those people were becoming organ donors because a lot of them were the demographics were 18 to 35-year-old white Caucasian men. They were going to try something and they're going to get high, and then they passed out, aspirated, and infarcted their brainstem and became brain dead. Well, we were just the administrators from all over the United States. We were sitting around this table with, our jaw dropped. And we, at the time, were getting about 10% or more of those were organ donors. So their organs were in good shape. So fast forward to today, 30% of our donors come from the opioid crisis, which is, I know.
That's terrible, honestly.
It is terrible. It is. There's just, if there was a silver lining that which it's hard to believe in that horrible time that the organs could be transplanted. Actually, then some good came from some horrible bad. But that came to me, and I took the notes in 2013 and I put it away somewhere. And you know how, as writers, you may have a file for ideas or characters or current events. And I looked at it and I thought, this is going to be part of the second book. One, because to raise awareness about it, because I think it's important to be aware of. But two, the fact is that that's a source of organs for transplant. And so that's how I came to include in the opioid crisis in Match. And the liver transplant cut, it just depends on what's going on at the time. And I don't want to bury my reader in current events, but I also think they'll know what year they're in by a headline. It might be a benign headline, it might be a fun headline, and it might be a sad headline in a newspaper, or you hear it on the radio, because your character's got to go somewhere and get there by some means. And whether it's in a car and the radio's playing, or they're watching television and it's a hit show, or there's just so much to choose from, but to choose it wisely. Yeah. And politically, for the most part, I try to stay away, because I honor that everybody has their own, their choice. And I don't feel like anyone's right or wrong. So I try to just give the story its own legs and its own plot and its own fun characters to play with a little bit of sprinkling of I am a diehard Cubs fan, just for the record. They did win the World Series in 2016, just so we're all clear. So don't think that's not showing up in my books at some level, because why not? So also we as writers, we get to put in a little of our favorite things,
Yes.
Whether it's a good burrito or, chicken cacciatore or the Chicago Cubs or a little humor, you know what I mean? It's like, we have this spice rack that's called Kitty and Amy. And so when we're making that stew, that story, we may put a little this in and a little that in and stir it up and see how it goes. So I think every one of us who wants to write has that. Yeah. And I think people would be surprised if they sat still for a little bit and said, what are my favorite things? Or what do I like to eat? Or what do I hate to eat? And put it in your character's mouth that you don't like with extra salt, Yeah. So I just think it's all for the taking, So I think that's just something that I actually enjoy.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. I actually was worried that you were going through all of your tips and everything so fast that we would end up with this really short interview. And I'm looking at the time going, geez, why am I always surprised? It's happened again. Like, we've really been talking for a while already, and I hate to do it, but we'll have to start wrapping things up. So before I say thank you for being on the show, were there any other, I know you had some great notes. Were there any other things that you had wanted to add into the discussion?
Well, two things.
Like you can't come back, but I wanted to make sure we didn't. Yeah.
Here's your gift with purchase. So, I teach yoga and breathing. And it's funny because I've been asked to be keynote speakers at conferences now, where I can get people into their body by breath, and then a little yoga, and then a little laughter, because then it's, a good combo. So first, I want to tell anybody who's listening is that nobody can write the story but you. It's your story, and you're the only person that has your perspective, your thoughts, and so I encourage anyone who wants to write, there's only one you, and there's only one Kitty, and nobody else can write Kitty's story, and nobody else can write yours. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a very simple thing that I teach people in my keynote speeches, because we're all like this right now. We're hunched over, our shoulders, our heads in the computer or down, and we're doing this all the time. So I invite people to just sit up, put their shoulders by their ears. They may already be there. Let's bring them down, put our head back, pull our tummy in, and then we're going to do this. Now, podcast people, you may have to go to YouTube for this, okay? I'll try to be descriptive. We're going to take our thumb and put it on the middle knuckle of our little opposite little finger, and we're just going to pull it back a little bit, because remember, our hands are like that. So we're going to give that knuckle a little love, and we're going to proceed to each finger, the ring finger, the middle finger, the index finger, and then take your thumb meat and you rub it. Give it like some exercise, give it in there because it's tight. And these are your hands that you're using to write. And then we'll do the other hand, back and then back, and then just pull it back gently. If it hurts, don't do it. But you'll notice you might get a little cracker or not. And then you're gonna, take that meat of that thumb and just give it some love. These are your hands. And then you can stretch your hands out in front of you with you. Just give yourself, try to get your shoulders down. And then the last thing is you're just going to take the hand palm and you're going to straighten your arm out so that it looks like this, because this whole inner part of your arm, it doesn't get a good stretch because what are we doing? We're hunched over. So shoulder blades back and down, belly button to backbone, make sure your sits bones are there, and then do your finger exercises and every little bit time, little twister wister for your spine, which is great. And then I always, not that I use it all the time, keep an egg timer. I set it for 20 minutes. Sometimes I'm gone in the story and I don't hear it, but you got to get up and move because this is your body and you want to take good care of it so it can take care of you. So that's your last minute tricks and tips of taking good care and breathing. And thank you. This has been amazing.
Amy, you have been lovely to chat with. It's been so much fun. So many really encouraging I just want to say offerings, even more than tips, encouraging offerings to people listening. You've helped us figure out like, how can we balance the full-time job? And it sounds like you probably had a more than 40-hour-a-week job, but you managed to just a little bit at a time, make it happen. So thank you for encouraging everybody who's like, okay, yeah, I guess I can get this done.
We need more stories in the world. And if people need to look at my website, it's amyspeele.com, AMYS as in Sam, peel like a banana peel with an E at the end. And so there's information about stories and my background, and you can even get a free sample chapter if you would like to do that. And I just try to make it a fun, interactive place so people can go to and learn and read a little bit. And I'm doing a contest right now called Match Around the World. And people have sent me the pictures of the book from Honduras and throughout the US. And so if your readers want, or your listeners want to read it and send me a photo, my husband makes fused glass necklaces. And I find out the person's favorite color and I send them a necklace, thank them for the picture.
Wow.
So that's my contest. And my husband makes beautiful necklaces. So it's kind of it's a win-win.
Wonderful. Wow. Thank you so much, Amy. It's been such a pleasure having you here.
Thank you for having me, Kitty. It was so much fun. I feel like I could talk to you for hours.